Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to session 3. Today's been a great day. We've done 2 amazing sessions. Aaron, that last session was great with some of the guests that we had on. And what are we going to be talking about in this session?
So for this particular segment, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to share with you some of the websites that were discussed earlier, and then I'm going to move on. So we talked about managers, agents, casting directors. They're the ones that we go in and read for projects. I didn't mention much about art and creative directors, so I want to explain to you exactly what they do. They work at advertising agencies, and the reason why it's important for you to know who they are is because sometimes they are the ones who are responsible for hiring the actor for a TV commercial or radio spot or the commercial model. So the creative director is the person who comes up with the concept for the ad campaign. And then it's the art director who will take that idea and actually put it on paper, and it's called a layout. And they show the layout, which is a visual description of what the ad will look like to the client, who the ad is for. Then once it gets approved, then they'll show it to the photographer so the photographer knows exactly what the shot is going to be like. So when I talk about marketing in the third session, you'll know why it's important to send information to the art and creative director. Unions. I've talked about a couple of the unions, and I'm going to show you some websites, but essentially there are 4 that I'm going to mention. There's SAG, there's AFTRA, there's Equity, which is the theater union, and then there's also ACTRA, which is the union in Canada. So I know we have some Canadian listeners as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to find photographers. So for finding agents, there is an association, and you can see it here. It's the Association of Talent Agents, called ATA, and this is their website. If you are living or thinking about trying to work in New York, LA, Chicago, perhaps Miami, you will definitely find some in those markets. I'm not sure how many you will find in secondary markets, but it's certainly worth looking at. Another way, you can get a copy of the call sheet, and here's the website. The company Backstage produces this book. I think it comes out 6 times a year. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But in either case, what this booklet has, and I think it costs about $12 an issue. Personally, I think getting one will be all you need to start off with. I don't know that you need to start off with a subscription, an annual subscription, but it will list every major agent in New York, LA, casting directors, managers, projects that are coming up, who's producing, who's casting what shows. It's just filled with great information, and here's the website for it. Also on my website, howtomodel.com, I list over 200 agents. You'll find agents from every state in the United States, and you can find that from my website. For finding managers, there's an association, it's talentmanagers.org. There's also the National Conference of Personal Managers, and that's ncopm.com. But once again, I'm rushing through it because you can just go back and catch these later. For casting directors, the Casting Society of America, it's CSA, here's their website. And also, like I mentioned earlier, if you go to the call sheet, you'll find tons of casting directors in major markets as well. To find advertising agencies, here's a great association. It's AAAA.org, American Association of Advertising Agencies. There's also an organization, American Ad Agencies, and I've got the website here for you. And in Canada, it's the advertising agencies in Canada. So what you can do is go to their websites, see if they have any ad agencies in your particular area, and then you can send your headshot or your comp card or your child's headshot and comp card to the art or creative director at those ad agencies. For unions, you've got the Screen Actors Guild, that's SAG, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, that's AFTRA. There's also ACTRA, and like I said, Actors Equity, and you can learn about them. You can also read about them in my book, How to Become a Successful Commercial Model, which you all are getting a copy of. Photographers. There's a really good organization. It's called ASMP. It's American Society of Media Photographers. And essentially there are over 5,000 members across the country. Actually, they even have them outside the United States as well. And what you can do is you can go to the website, find out if they have any photographers in your particular area, and you can read about what kind of photography they do. If it's architectural photography, they're just shooting buildings, CEO reports, corporation reports. I wouldn't bother with them, but you'll find commercial photographers, you'll find tabletop photographers. Those are people who specialize in shooting products, but sometimes they shoot commercial people as well. And you also might find assistant photographers. This is a great way of marketing yourself and maybe finding people who will do a little trade with you and not charge you anything if you're testing out some ideas for new ads. Okay. Now I want to head into session 3, and let's learn about the business of the business. So for marketing yourself, when you are sending out your headshot and or composite sheet or your child's, you have to write a cover letter, and you'll get a great cover letter right from my book. It's on page 47, and essentially what you're going to say is, I'm a fresh face in this market, keep me in mind for, for future projects. And then if you are working with an agent, say you can be contacted through, and then have your agent's information. And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking with Katrina, it's best to have your agent actually do the negotiations and handle it for you. If you don't have any representation, then certainly, you can try to take the job yourself. Or if somebody's offering you the job, there's no better way for you to meet an agent than to contact them and say, look, I just booked this job. Would you handle it for me? You also will be sending out your comp card, like I mentioned, and headshot. Send it to the art and creative directors at advertising agencies. And if you do not have any representation and you're trying to find work, you do have to be very careful with this because you don't necessarily know who you're dealing with. But there's Mandy.com. That would be an interesting place. They do list jobs that come up. You can also try going to my website, howtomodel.com, and in the forum, if I hear about any jobs or auditions or go-sees, I will post them there. And I ask other people to do that as well. What I'm doing at this website is building a large community of people who are helping each other. So if you do hear about an audition, go-see, or a job, please post it there so you can share it with others. And I know that sometimes people are concerned, well, if I post it, somebody else might read it and they might get the job and I might not. Let me just tell you, I truly believe that we do not have any competition in this world. We really don't. And I'm not saying that other people might not be better, more skilled, more experienced. Absolutely. But everybody has something very unique to offer. Everybody has their own personal upbringings, experiences in life, and you will bring different things to an audition or a go-see that is different than anybody else. And what I like to do, just like I was saying before about the listing the jobs, when you put yourself in a frame of mind and surround yourself with people who are out there actually trying to help each other, I just find that it's a much nicer work environment. So, really, if somebody else books the job that you posted and you didn't get it, that just meant the job wasn't meant for you. And hopefully that, something else will pop up for you that you're right for and that you'll book. Another place that you can go to, and once again, you have to be very careful, and it's Craigslist.org, and I listed it here. And what you want to do is go to the gigs link and, look it up. But, just to mention, certainly, if you have a child, you're going to be there anyway, but if you are an adult and you find something on any kind of alternative website that's not, gotten through your agent, I would bring somebody with you. And, the fact of the matter is you just don't know who people are. If it's a photographer, I would check out their website very carefully, make sure they're shooting photographs that you're comfortable with, let people know where you're going to be, what times, and make sure that, you're going to check in with people. You do have to be careful when you are trying to book jobs on your own and you're getting things, via an unknown website for you. Model release forms. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to get very specific about this, and you will find this on page 74 in the book. Essentially, at the end of every modeling job, if you are a minor, the parent has to sign a model release form for the child. If you are an adult, then you will be signing it. And essentially what this says is you are giving the photographer permission to use your image or your child's image in this ad, and you absolutely have to sign it. If you don't sign it, then you could be plastered on billboards throughout North America. And if you don't like the way your child looks, you can say, hey, take it down. I don't like the way, her eyebrows look. And they'd have to remove it. So you've got to sign the model release form. But there are changes you want to make in every model release form. You do not want to sign it as is. Here are the words. I put them in yellow so that you can see them carefully. And in the book, I put them in bold. You will find either these exact words or very similar words in every model release form. And it will say that they can use your image made through any media or for any other purpose whatsoever. They can't. Your agent negotiated a fee based on its usage. And here, I talked about it briefly before, but here's what I mean by that. If your ad is being used in a newspaper, magazine, brochure, direct mail piece, typically you're going to get either an hourly fee, day rate, or sometimes they do buyouts where they just pay you and then they can use it forever, but you should get a bonus for that. If it's running in a high exposure format, those are the billboards, posters on the side of a bus, on the internet, you should get additional money because you could potentially lose work. If you are doing an ad for a bank on a billboard, no other local bank is going to hire you because you're so closely connected to a competitor. And sometimes people get overexposed. They are seen so much in one particular area on those billboards or posters on the side of a bus that even if it's a completely unconnected company, the photographer or art or creative director might say, hey, you know what? We've seen that person way too much. Let's find a fresh face. So to help compensate you, you should get a bonus. So when you get the model release form, find these words. And the way that you handle it is scratch them out. Write in there specifically exactly how your agent said the ad will run. So if your agent told you ahead of time it's running in a newspaper, you're going to write in there for newspaper only. If it's in a magazine, for magazine only. In a brochure, brochure only. You initial it, then you sign it at the bottom. That is how you protect yourself. And you're protecting your agent. So that way, if this is running in a newspaper, the client loves it. And they decide, you know what? We want to put this on billboards. Now they have to renegotiate with your agent. So if for any reason, and this has only happened to me twice in my entire life, this is over 1,100 jobs, twice I've had photographers start to complain and grumble and mumble, what are you doing? You can't make this change. It's a standard release form. Here's how I handle it. I play dumb and I blame it on my agent. I just say, look, my agent said she would kill me or he would kill me if I signed this as is. Do me a favor. Call my agent. Whatever my agent wants me to do, I'll do. Let your agent handle it. That's why you're paying your agent a 20% commission fee. And if there is a battle that takes place, you want it to be with your agent. You want to maintain a good relationship with this photographer. You want things to go well. You want them to hire you again and again and again. And if there's a fight, let it be with your agent. And I can tell you that sometimes, especially in smaller markets, sometimes agents are more concerned about their relationship with the photographer, who might hire tons of models from the agent, than worried about getting some extra money. So they might say to you, look, just sign it as is. Don't worry about it. And that's happened to me a few times. I do that. I'm not happy about it. I pick and choose my fights with agents very carefully. And in that instance, I will hope that the agent knows what they're doing and I won't run into problems and seeing myself in high exposure formats. So anyhow, that's what you want to do with model release forms. There's another very important document, and it's called a voucher. And typically, they all say the same thing. Normally, it's a 3 color-coded copy, and you fill out who you're invoicing. And this is all the information. You're going to be getting this ahead of time. And in my book, you'll read there's a whole list of questions you're going to ask your agent prior to going to the set. But who's being billed? who's being invoiced, who's the photographer, you'll have their address, the times that you work, your hourly rate, if it isn't, or whatever your fee is for the day. But here's the important thing with a voucher. You sign it, and whoever is being invoiced on the set will sign it as well. Then you get one copy to your agent immediately, and you give one to whoever is being invoiced, and you keep a copy. Now, I like, if I can, I like to walk that voucher into the agent's office. Sometimes I live far away from the agent, in which case I'll mail it or fax it over. But if I can, I like to hand deliver it. By doing that, what I am saying to the agent is, I'm reminding the agent, I'm marketable, I'm making you money, I want to be that top tier person that you submit for the jobs because I'm booking work. And so that's a nice subtle way of doing it, and you always want a reason to walk into an agent's office. And like we were talking with Katrina earlier, you don't want to just walk into an agent's office and talk about world events. There has to be a reason. You don't want to take them off of the phone. But to drop off a voucher, absolutely, that's money for them, and you're sending a very clear message. They need to take you seriously and continue to market you very well. The other key thing with a voucher is I never throw my vouchers away. I have a little 3-ring binder. You can do it in a spreadsheet if you would like. I've just always done it in a 3-ring binder. And every time I do a job, I put the date, I put all the information, who the client was, who the agent was, the type of job. I even put the advertising agency, the makeup artist. I want all those details in there. And then I'll take the voucher and I'll put it in a regular plain envelope, and it will say vouchers 2011. And then in my calendar, in 3 months, in the 90 days, I'll write in should be paid for, and I'll list the name of the job. Then once I get paid, I will take that voucher and I will take the check or the statement by the check, write paid in full, and put it into another envelope that says paid vouchers 2011 and store it. That way, if for any reason, let's say this was a 1-year usage, 12 months, and somebody calls you 2 years later, a friend of yours, and says, hey, I just saw one of your ads in this magazine. And you go, really? And you think, well, gosh, I did that thing a couple of years ago. And then what you want to do is first make sure it's really you. Get a copy of the magazine. Sometimes people said they've seen me in ads and it looked like me, but it wasn't me. Make sure it's really you. Then go back to your 3-ring binder and start going through, last year, the year before, find the exact date of the job. Then go into your little envelope of paid vouchers for that year and pull out your voucher and look, how long was that ad allowed to run? And if it says 12 months only, 1 year only, and then you got the magazine, it's 2 years later, now you need to get paid and you can prove it. So what you need to do is contact the agent, and once again, I let the agent know, hey, just wanted to let you know they reran this ad that I did a couple of years ago. It was only supposed to be a 12-month usage. We, not I, we need to get paid again. And you can show the voucher to the agent, and that is how you prove that you need to get paid, because a lot of times models will throw their voucher away once they've gotten paid for it. If you do that, you've got no proof, and typically agents don't hold on to vouchers for long time periods. Anyhow, vouchers are very important. Okay, let me talk to you about resumes. And I know Bob had talked a little bit about resumes. Here is a resume that I saw. There was a woman that I did a private consultation with, and so she sent me her resume and went through it line by line, and then really changed things around and turned it into a very strong one. So, okay, so if you look here at the top, she's got her name. Normally you'd put a last name. I didn't want to put the person's last name. Contact information, contact phone number. Now, if you're working with an agent, you're going to have your agent's information there. If you don't have an agent, then you're going to have your phone number. Now, you do have to be careful because you don't know who's getting their hands on your headshot. You might have, you're going to this audition, hand in your headshot. Once they're done with it, you didn't book the job, they might throw it away, and who knows who's going through people's trash. They pick up a headshot. sees somebody's picture, sees a phone number, you might want to be a little bit more careful with that. So what some people do is they will put their cell phone number and not put a home phone number. And the other thing that I just learned about recently, and this is really cool, is called Google Voice. And you can go to googlevoice.com. This is all free, and you can actually choose a number to use. And it's just unbelievable. There's no cost to it. And what happens is you use that number, and that number will be forwarded to, let's say, your cell phone. So you're still getting phone calls on your cell phone or your home phone, however you want to do it, but your personal number isn't being listed. Okay, if you, once again, if you're working with an agent, you're probably not going to have your personal email address. The agents don't want any of your personal information on there. They want to be contacted directly. If you don't have an agent, then you can have your email address or even a website if you've got some additional photos there, or if you've been working for a while and you've actually got some videos of some of your work. Okay, next she has, it says personal information. You do not need that title of personal information. You get rid of that. You will have your height. That's helpful. If you're working in the States, I would just stick with inches. You don't have to do centimeters. For eye color, some people will still put an eye color, assuming that your headshot is in color. Normally it's pretty clear, what your eye color is, but that's up to you. Your weight, that's optional. The headshot should show you well enough that people get a sense of body type, and that's what's most important. Hair color, once again, that should be pretty obvious, but certainly you can put that in there. And she has bust size. I would not put that. There's no reason to do that, and I think it just might be distracting. So just get rid of that. She has education. Okay, whoops. Let me just jump back to this one. And that's great. You definitely want to have education information, but this isn't the place for it. Typically, you're going to put education at the bottom. And she has her major, the year she graduated, what her minor was. I really don't think that's necessary. She has New York Film Academy. Absolutely. That sounds great. It's letting people know that you've studied acting. I don't know that you have to put a date on that either. You can just put that this took place in LA. I know they have two locations. One's LA, one's New York. Performance experience. Once again, you're not going to label it that way. One of the things you want to keep in mind is the area that you're working in. What is the majority of the work, and what kind of work do you want to get? If you're working and trying to get work in New York, well, it's a major theater town. I mean, there's nothing like it. Although Chicago's great, but New York is really #1 in the United States for theater. So if you have theater experience, I would lead with theater. And so she does have some information, about some of the theater that she's done, which is great. If you're trying to work in Los Angeles, I would not lead with theater because it's not a theater town. If you have any TV, if you have any film experience, that's what you're going to want to lead with. Okay, so let me go to the next slide. And once again, there's a convention. I wouldn't necessarily put convention stuff down there because really what you want to do is show work experience, training, things that you've done. She's got additional work experience, which is pretty amazing. Most of those things you really don't want to have. First of all, it's got to be one page. It's got to be 8 by 10, and most pieces of paper, it's going to be, gosh, what is it, 9.5 by 11? But you've got to cut it down to 8 by 10 so that it fits evenly on the back of a headshot. So putting medical secretary, that's not important. As far as additional experience, babysitter, lawn care, retail stuff, all those things are irrelevant. What's important is anything that can help get you cast. The one exception to the rule, well, there are a number of exceptions to the rule, but one that I decided to keep, and I'll show you later, she has RSA certified NSW, Sydney, Australia. And I asked her about that. And in order for her to do any bartending, she had to get this certification. And I thought, you know what? That's interesting. If I were a casting director and I saw RSA certified Sydney, Australia, that would grab my attention. Number one, I think it would be helpful to say bartender. Now, if you're a child, chances are you're not going to be a bartender, but maybe if you're the adult, you would put that in there because number one, that could be helpful. If there is a scene and you are auditioning for a bartender, if you actually, have been one, you know what you're doing, I think that could be very helpful. And just saying that you lived in Australia, I think that might start a conversation, which I think could be really interesting. Other skills, without a doubt, you want to put, I wouldn't just put athlete because that just sounds too general for me. I like what she has. She has basketball, she has softball, swimming, and even for swimming, if you can, I mean, if you're a serious swimmer, maybe put down some of the strokes that you are best at. She has, soprano voice training, which is great. She didn't just say singer. Okay, so let me show you what the final windup was, because once again, it's got to be one page. One of the things that I like to do, and I saw somebody else do it, and I thought it was great. You've got your headshot on the front, flip it on the back, and by the way, there are many ways of attaching your resume. Some people will just print it right onto the back. And if you're only doing, a handful of copies, that's fine. Just make sure that the print doesn't bleed through so you see it coming out of your eyes or forehead. That's not a good look for your headshot. If you're doing quite a few headshots at one time, I wouldn't necessarily want to print it because then if you want to update your resume, you're probably going to have to throw a lot of them away. Some people glue the back of their resume. I really don't think that's a very good idea too. It just seems messy. It could become separated. And actually, let me just get that out of there. It could get separated, in which case that's not good. So I like to staple all four corners, and I know it's going to stay there. So on the back, what might be helpful is to put another photo, another headshot, just a small one right in the corner here. And if you don't have a second headshot, even put the same one. So that way, when they flip it onto the back and they're looking at your resume, they can still see you. And I think that's helpful. Okay, so you've got first name, last name. If you are a member of a union, you can put that down. And once again, put the phone number. If you're an agent, you're going to have all that information or whatever phone number you want to put. And you'll notice here, I just listed it straight down here, hair color, eye color, weight, and height. Starting off with theater. She's planning on moving to New York. So she's got the name of the piece. You can put the character name and then what the production company, where it was done, who the director was in that column. For TV and radio commercials, if you've done them, I wouldn't list them. And I know sometimes people say, well, why wouldn't I want to list the commercials that I've done? The problem is this. Let's say you did a TV commercial for a soft drink, and it ran for one cycle, 13 weeks, and it stopped running, and it hasn't run for 2 or 3 years. If you have the name of that product listed as a TV spot, and all of a sudden you're being submitted for an audition for a competing soft drink, they might look at it and go, ah, she worked for a competitor, he worked for a competitor, let's get somebody else. So what's best is just write down list available upon request. And I can tell you, I've never had anybody ask me for a list. All they will ask you and should ask you is, do you currently have any conflicts? And what that means is, do you have any commercials running for competing companies? And also, if you've never done a TV commercial, it certainly sounds better, list available upon request. Okay, so for film, you can put the name of the film, and you can either put, and it varies from market to market. Some people will put a character name and then either the director or the production company. Or what you can do is you can put lead, you can put co-star. Basically, what that's doing is it's showing the importance of what you did. Because if you just put down, let's say it was a student film and you put down, Larry Smith, well, the casting director has no idea. Is that an important part? Is it a small part? Or if you put down bartender, or if you put down student, well, is that extra work, or is that an important part? So if you do put down, lead, starring, co-starring, at least people know the importance of it. And as far as the whole point about extra work and, should you list extra work, it's another good example of there is no one right answer to that. I can tell you what my opinion is, but I've heard other opinions and I think they can be valid too. I just feel differently about it. I don't recommend listing extra work. It's not showing any acting skills. It's not showing that you auditioned for a project and got cast in it. And what some people say is, well, at least it will show them that I've been on sets. I know what I'm doing. I know what goes on. I know what to expect. And I get that. So if you decide to go that route and actually list extra work, one thing that I think would be very important is make it clear that it's extra work. Sometimes people will put in a character, teacher, student, bartender, whatever it is, in a feature film, trying to make people think, oh, well, maybe this person really had a role, was cast, auditioned for this thing. And if you do that, it's just not good, because ultimately the most important thing on a resume is be honest. Even if you have very little material, be honest in it. Because if you start doing things and start making it dishonest, number one, I don't think it's a good way to run your business by lying to people. And two, if by chance, and it certainly can happen, somebody questions you and all of a sudden they find out that was an extra job. That wasn't a real part. It's going to make anything else that you have on your resume questionable. So if you do feel like, look, I don't have anything else, I want to at least let people know that I've been on sets, then you can put student and then in parentheses I would put extra. Or if you were featured and you were actually seen, you could put featured extra. So at least that way you're being honest, you're being upfront. Special skills. So as you can see here, I put certified bartender. That's pretty cool. And you'll notice here we put swimming, put breaststroke, free stroke, singing. She has that in there. And I thought this was interesting too. She was a tour guide and for the New York Power Authority, and she would actually take people on tours. I thought that was interesting. And she was a basketball referee, and I thought that was interesting as well. So I think those are good special skills. And you'll notice down here under education, she has the name of her program, the New York Film Academy, and who she did voice training with. And boy, I think this is a powerful resume. And the other thing just to keep in mind with resumes, and I know especially for young kids, parents are very concerned, and they'll say, we haven't done anything. I mean, I don't have anything to put on a resume. Just keep in the back of your mind, your resume doesn't get you the job. Your resume absolutely could open doors. If you have a very powerful resume, you've got incredible listings of jobs and training and things like that, sure, people will take you more seriously than somebody who really doesn't have anything. But that doesn't get you the booking. So people understand you've got to start someplace. You're not born into this world with a great resume. So number one, be honest with your resume. List anything that's appropriate. If you did the job 2 years ago, if you did a local theater, something at your local church, something community, and if you are a kid and you're trying to get some experience, maybe contact or have your parents contact the local college. Maybe they're doing a play and they need a kid that really has to be a kid. They can't have a college student play it. Maybe that would be a great way to get some more experience. So even if you don't have much to say, you've got a name, you've got a phone number, hopefully you've had some kind of training that you can put in there, and put special skills. And even if that's all you can put in there, that's great. Because the most important thing at the audition, number one thing, it's your look. Do you physically look right for the part? Now, that's not going to get you the role, but that is the most important part, because if you don't physically look right, you're not going to get the job. So once you look right and you get in there and you do a great read, well, that's giving you your best chance of getting the job. All right. Resume. So as you can see here, I changed over my resume and I just put, instead of putting, listing the names of the characters, that's what I did, whether it's co-star, supporting, lead, things like that. Okay, preparing for an audition. And actually we had this question earlier. And I knew I was going to be talking about this in more detail, and that's why I didn't want to spend, much more time with it when Bob was talking about it. Like he said, read the sides. Read the other character's part too. Sometimes actors will just read their sides, highlight their sides, and go, well, okay, somebody says something to me, who cares? Here's my line, and they concentrate on that. Quite often you're going to find it's the other person's lines that will help teach you a lot about your character. So I'm not saying you've got to memorize it, but just be very comfortable. And speaking of memorization, once again, there's no set rule on this. Matter of fact, and I can tell you, Bob told me a while ago he doesn't have his clients memorize the lines for the first audition. Now, they're very comfortable with it. Look, if you can memorize it, great, but you don't have to. And I've spoken with other managers who've said, oh, all of my talent, if they have a couple days notice, absolutely they want it memorized. So everybody works differently. My take on it is I don't memorize quickly. And when I go to an audition, I want it to sound conversational. I want it to flow, and I don't want to be in a situation where all of a sudden I'm kind of hesitating and thinking because I'm forgetting the words. I'd rather have the sides sitting in my hand so that if I need to, I can just easily glance down at it. And what I do typically is I grab words in groups of 3. So if I'm holding the sides up away from my face so the camera can still see me, I can glance over here. And if it's for a film or TV, typically, if the camera is shooting me here, they'll have a reader to the side, and that's where I'm going to look. I'm going to, after I slate and give my name, I'm going to look to the reader. I'll grab 3 words, say it, grab 3 words and say it, and this is something you can practice at home with your child as well. Just open up, magazine, newspaper, and have them grab 3 words and look over. So be very comfortable with the sides. But like I said, typically for that initial audition, unless I can memorize it very easily, I don't. One of the questions I ask, who is the scene about? Now, if I'm auditioning for a major project, the scene's not about me. I am supporting the major player here. And so, not to say that my part isn't important, I might only have 2 or 3 words. It's important. The writers are not going to put a single word in that script unless it's important. But the scene is not about me. And that's very important to understand. So, like for instance, when we were talking earlier about reads and stuff, you want to make sure that you're not trying to overact. You don't want to make this thing big. You want to read the words. Let the words just come out. So when you understand the scene's not about me, like for instance, let me give you a perfect example of that. I was once helping somebody cast a project, and a guy came in. He was speaking of bartenders. The guy was a bartender, and the star of this project comes in, and the bartender looks at the guy, and he's supposed to say, "Yeah, what would you like to drink?" Those are the line. That was his line. That was it. Well, this actor, for whatever reason, felt like he needed to show the casting director and eventually show the director that he was powerful. He was a great and very strong actor. And so when he walked in and he looked in, over to me because I'm reading with the guy, and he goes, "What would you like to drink?" Now that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. That's not the line. It wasn't about him. The line is, "Hey, what would you like to drink?" That's it. So make sure you understand who the scene is about. There's also something called the 5 W's. That's who, what, where, when, why, and I have it listed here. You want to be able to answer all of those W's, whether it's a TV commercial, whether it's a feature film, television show, it doesn't make any difference. Who are you talking to? Even if you're doing a monologue, who are you talking to? And and don't say, "Well, I'm talking to people." I'm talking to a group. I'm talking to friends. Make it specific. When you're figuring out who that person is, if it's a monologue, or it doesn't make any difference what it is, the more general you make that answer, the more general and boring your read's going to be. Imagine this. If you are reading something to your father, and you're doing this scene, it's going to have a very different feel than if you're reading to a classmate. It's going to have a very different feel if you're reading to your mom as opposed to you're reading to some girl that you've always liked but were too afraid to ask out on a date. So make it very specific. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Where is this taking place? The reason why the where is so crucial is because you want to create the scene. When you walk in for that audition, you want everybody to believe that you are there. So if the scene, and this is something you need to ask about perhaps, and that's a very legitimate question to ask the casting director, where is this taking place? Or it might say it right in the sides, but if it doesn't, know where it's taking place, because if the scene is taking place in your kitchen and the person is sitting, 1 foot away from you in a chair, well, you're probably going to be talking like this because the person's sitting right there. If the scene is taking place, you're outside, it's a busy intersection, buses are, going up and down the street. Well, in order to make this thing sound real, you're going to have to raise your voice so that the person can hear you. The other thing is when. When is this taking place? Is this happening at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, in which case most people, they're wide awake, they're talking in a normal voice? Or is this thing happening at, 3 o'clock in the morning? And you're just exhausted because you normally don't stay up this late. Create the scene. And why? Why are you saying this to somebody? Even if it's a commercial. Is this for some kind of, I don't know, something that will cover up a zit on your face, and you're talking to your best friend. And the reason why you're doing this, the why, is because she's very attractive, but she gets like these little things on the side of her face, and you're really concerned about her, and you know that if she can really cover that up, well, she will feel a lot better. So that's the why. So be able to answer who, what, where, when, why before you read for any project. All right, questions for the casting director. What is your relationship with the other actor? That is a very important question to answer, and I just explained a second ago why. If you're reading for a TV show, well, you're going to know because you will have watched the show. Make sure you watch the show before you audition for it so you know who the characters are. If you go in there and you say, well, yeah, who's this other character? What's my relation? And this is the star of the show, you're not getting it because you're going to be viewed as a lazy actor, somebody who didn't spend the time to really work and do your homework and research. So if it's a feature film, you're going to be given sides. You have no idea who this character is. So a very legitimate question. What is my relationship with this other character? And that way you'll know, your friend, a relative, all that. Any words you don't understand. Sometimes people are kind of hesitant, and they're going to think, well, I might look kind of dumb if I ask. Well, it's not going to be a very good read if you don't know what the words mean. So ask. If there are any words you don't know how to pronounce, once again, ask away, especially if this is a TV commercial and you're mispronouncing the name of the product, you're not getting it. What you never want to ask a casting director is, so, how do you want me to read this? That's your job. As an actor, it's your job to come up with an idea. Now, you might be basing this on very little information. You might be heading in a wrong direction with the character because you really don't know what's going on. And that's okay, because if you physically look right and you make it an interesting read, you grab somebody's attention, even if you take it in the wrong direction, hopefully that will be enough for you to get a callback. When you get that callback, that means you're going to come in and read again. Except this time, instead of just reading with the casting director there and perhaps a reader, you could have multiple people. You'll have the director, you could have writers, you could have producers, it could be, or if it's a TV commercial, you could have people from the ad agency, and then they will give you more specific information. Once again, There's no scientific proof. Everybody has different ideas. Let me just share with you my experiences. When I get a call back, I wear the same wardrobe. I want them to see me in the same way that they saw me initially and like me enough to call me back. Sometimes people will wear different things so they can look different. I'm telling you, wear the same thing. 2, read it the same way. Sometimes actors make the mistake. I want to show them I am so talented that I read it one way at the audition, and now I'm going to give them a very different read so they can see that I'm so talented. Give it to them again. Now look, we're not robots. We can't just punch it in and say, hey, I gave a number 63 type read. I'm going to give it to them again. But you did your homework. You knew what the character was about. You knew what direction. You made decisions about the character. Do it the same way. If they want to see it differently, they'll tell you. And even if they loved what you did, there's a very good chance they're going to ask you to do it differently, only because they want to make sure that you can take direction. Sometimes you get booked for the job, you're on the set, concepts change, scripts change, and they want you to do something a little bit different. They want to make sure that you've got the skill to be able to do that. All right, let's move on. Getting photos taken free. That normally grabs people's attention. Now, I would make this really clear. I'm not trying to tell you, don't hire professional photographers. Of course, you want to do that. But especially when you're first getting started and you are testing out some of these ideas from your homework assignment. And by the way, before I forget, while you're doing your homework assignment, something that might be very helpful to you, and I'm more than happy to do this for you, when you start coming up with ideas from magazines that you are seriously considering, feel free to scan it and email it and post it on my fan page on Facebook. And it's Facebook.com/how-to-model. And maybe put 3 or 4 different ideas that you have. And I'd be more than happy to take a look at it and say, yeah, hey, I think that could be a really interesting kind of shot for you to try to create. So anyhow, I'm just offering that service. Maybe there will be other people there who can also offer input, but anyhow, I'm just offering that to you. I think it might be really helpful. So as you're going through the process and trying to come up with some really new, interesting ideas, you can get some feedback. So what you want to do is, what I suggest, is try to get some shots taken free first and see if the shots work. And there are a couple ways of doing it. One is you can go to this website. It is asmp.org. And I didn't put the www in there simply because I ran out of space. And I didn't want it to go to a second line. But it's the American Association of Media Photographers. And it's a great organization. And I mentioned them to you before. There are over 5,000 members. You'll be able to find, hopefully you can find people in your area. The other thing is, why don't you go to some local colleges, community colleges, universities, doesn't make any difference, and go to the art department and see if they have photography classes. And assuming they do, what you want to do is speak to the instructor of the photography class. Bring the instructor your ideas. Once again, these are copies of ads that you've seen in magazines, and tell the instructor, look, I've got these great ideas for some commercial shots. Do you have any students who are interested in building up their commercial portfolio? And I'm sure that you will find students that will want to do that. And you work out a deal. Sometimes they call them TFP, trade for print, TCD, trade for CD. Essentially, you're trading services. And you're not going to charge the student your child's normal is $75 an hour modeling fee, and they're not going to charge you anything because they're students. All you're asking for is you want to get a copy of whatever they shoot. And the one key thing is, I would have them sign a basic agreement. You don't have to go to an attorney for this. The basic agreement is this. You could just write this down. I am giving, the student, put the student's name, permission to use my child, or if it's you, my image for promotional purposes only. So I'm giving so-and-so permission to use my image for promotional purposes only. And even though the way that it works, my understanding is whoever presses the button on the camera owns the copyrights to the shot. that doesn't mean the person can sell it without your permission. And so, especially by having them sign this agreement, and you should have two copies. You keep a copy and they keep a copy. You both sign it. That way, it will make it a little bit more difficult for a student to just go and try to sell the photo in case they really like it. But if they want to use it on their website to help promote their work as a photographer, that's fine. That's promotional. If they want to create a composite sheet for themselves to help sell themselves to get commercial work, that's fine. That's promotional. Just like for you. You want to put it on your composite sheet, you want to put it on your website, you want to put it on your agent's website, absolutely, that's fine. But if they want to actually sell it because somebody really likes the shot, they legally need to contact you, ask for your permission, and then you've got to work out an arrangement for them. In the worst case scenario, you do the shots with some students and the photos just look horrible. You know, technically they're bad, they're blurry, they're out of focus, the lighting is bad, there's shadows all over the place. Still, even when that happens, you're going to look at the photo and you're going to say, you know what? I like my expression. It looks believable to me. It looks real. I like the emotion that I'm showing. This looks like an ad for this particular product. I just can't use it because technically it's bad. That's the worst case. Best case scenario, you just got a shot free that looks great. And the other thing that will happen, and at least it's happened with other people I know, they've done this, and that student goes out and starts trying to get commercial modeling jobs. Well, they just worked with this student. They had a great experience. The shot looks great. Why wouldn't they want to hire them again? So anyhow, those are a couple ways of trying to get shots taken free. Okay, so now what do? You've got to do your homework assignment. And remember, your homework assignment is going to bookstores, going to some of the websites, getting ideas for some great shots. Get photos taken. So go out. If you want to hire a professional photographer, that's fine. If you want to try out some ideas first with some students, maybe some assistants to photographers, and you can find them through asmp.org. Then once you get the shots all done, then you want to try to find an agent. Agents are the best ones around to try to get you work. And once again, you can try to get work on your own, absolutely. But the quicker you get an agent, the better it will be for you. And you're going to start beginning to market yourself as well. And just keep in mind, there is no rush here. Take your time with this. Do it as like a little, and I mentioned this with Katrina earlier, as an extracurricular activity. It's a hobby. And I'm not saying it's a hobby like, you're going to, build a model airplane. And so, I mean, this is something you're going to spend time with. But don't feel like you've got to hurry. Don't feel like you've got to do this thing tomorrow. Commercial modeling and acting, these things, they're going to be around a very, very long time. And so, make sure it's fun. It's a fun process for you. And, and do the research and put these things together. And really, don't get frustrated if you're not getting the shots that you like. Sometimes it can be very difficult, but the important thing is to learn from it. And like I said earlier, it took me 6 months to get a headshot. And I was already very experienced, and there were a number of factors as to why it didn't happen. So take your time with it and really learn from it. Try to interact with other people. You might find that there are associations in your area. And actually, something else I just thought of, as far as trying to find some acting work is a lot of states, at least in the US, have film commissions. And what you might want to do is go to their website, and they will post information there if there are any projects that are coming up. Maybe there's some movies coming to town. Maybe you can get extra work. And I can tell you, if I'm available, I'll do extra work. There are some actors that I know who refuse to do extra work, and that's fine. There's nothing good or bad about that. They just choose not to. They don't want to spend the time doing extra work, and that's fine. The reason why I think it can be helpful to do it, look, you'll make some money. If you're not in the union, typically you're going to make anywhere from nothing to maybe $65, $75 for a day's work. Sometimes if you go into overtime, like more than 8 or 10 hours, and for non-union, I'm not sure exactly how that works. I can tell you more specifically about union stuff, but for non-union work, I mean, in every project it's different. Sometimes you will get some extra money, but even if you're only getting $65 for the day, and especially if you're a child, I mean or maybe you can spend the day with your child and you can both make some money. It's an interesting learning experience of seeing how movies are done or how TV shows are put together. And also there's networking. You'll talk with other parents, you'll talk with other actors, with other models, and find out, is there anything else going on? Who are the agents you want to contact in this particular market? Who are some of the photographers? Are there some really good acting classes that they would recommend? And so you'll find that it's a great opportunity to network, to learn, and depending on what's happening that day, I mean, there are some days of extra work where I am literally sitting next to the star, and I'm still just an extra. I don't have any lines, but I'm sitting there, and I get a chance to watch some phenomenal actors. I get a chance to listen to the directors and see and hear what they have to say to the actors, which I find really interesting. What does the actor do in preparation to be able to do that same take over and over and over and over and over again, and keep doing it the same way until the director asks you to do it differently? Or sometimes you could be one of 3,000 people sitting in a stadium and be in the nosebleed section and not have a clue as to really what's going on the football field. Those things can happen too, in which case you might not learn a whole lot that day, but maybe you'll be sitting next to some people that you'll get a chance to learn from. So anyhow, just wanted to share that information with you as well. And we're going to be winding up in just a couple of minutes here, but I wanted to share with you a couple of more really interesting contacts that I think will be helpful. Bob had mentioned this organization, and this is a company. They have offices on East Coast and West Coast, and it's called On Location Education. And essentially what they do is they're the ones that get hired by the producers. The actors, the child actors or parents, are not responsible for paying for any of this. It's the production company. And they are on the set, and they're the ones that will tutor your child while they're working. The other thing that they do is they are really the go-between between the child actor and the producer. So let's say, for instance, and it can vary depending on how old the child is as to how long they can work each day. For infants, it could be an hour, and I really don't know the exact amount of time, but it's a pretty short amount of time. Or if you're a high school student, you can work a pretty good amount of time, but not as much as an adult. But they're the ones who will walk over to either one of the PAs or probably one of the assistant directors. It might be the first AD. You've got the director, you've got a first AD who's right under that, you've got a second AD, second, and they're the ones that will walk over to one of the assistant directors and say, hey, just want to let you know you've got another 35 minutes to work with this actor before it's time for him or her to go to classes. And so that's part of their responsibility as well. But they're also there to tutor and train and make sure that your child gets the education that is required. Another interesting organization, it's called Children Film, and here is the website. There's a lot of really good information that you can learn from. So anyhow, just wanted to share those with you as well. Let me just wind things up here. I know this has been a very, very long day. For those of you who've actually sat in for 5 hours straight, that's pretty amazing. I know some of you had to, you started here, you left, you came back. Some of you are going to be watching this completely recorded. And so a couple things. One is, for those of you who have sat in for the entire session, I know your head is probably spinning around right now. I mean, you've been hit with so much information in a very short time period. So, feel free to go back. You will have an opportunity to watch this as many times as you like. You will be sent early next week the link that will allow you to, watch this over and over and over again. And so the other thing too is take your time with getting all this stuff settled. And like I mentioned before, you don't have to do this stuff overnight. And also, I just wanted to let you know that even though this session is done, this workshop is done for the day, I don't want you to feel like I just lock my door and take off. I make myself very available to people. And so, if you have some questions, feel free to email me, or you can give me a call. All that information is at my website, howtomodel.com. And also, please, become a fan at Facebook /howtomodel, and just click like there, because I send out information there. Go to Twitter and follow me on Twitter. It's Twitter /Aaron AARON R Marcus. Robert is my middle name, so it's Twitter twitter.com /Aaron R Marcus, and follow me, because I'll send out really helpful information there as well. And so like I said earlier, I really like the idea of running my business as a resource place for people. And so this way we can build up large communities of people, tell other people, about howtomodel.com, and also Facebook and Twitter as well. So we can really build a lot of people around the world. I mean, it is pretty cool. Sometimes I'm getting emails from people it could be in Africa, it could be South America, in the Middle East, throughout North America and Mexico, and people are asking questions. And the thing that's really interesting is quite often the answers are the same around the world. Sometimes things are different, but quite often it's the same. And when we can really have a large community of people helping each other, I just think it's a great way to run your business. So anyhow, I just want to say congratulations. You are the guys who are really working very hard and are willing to really follow your dreams. I mean, most people, what they do is they'll think of something, they'll fantasize about it, and never act on it. And those are the people that are always haunted by, I wonder what if. I wonder if my child could have gotten any work. I wonder, as a mom or as a dad or as an adult, I wonder if this is something I can do. And you are the ones that are actually doing it. And you're the ones who aren't going to be always having those little nightmares and those thoughts every time you see an ad on TV, every time you see an ad in a magazine. You're not the ones who are going to be wondering, I wonder what this was like. I wonder if this is something I could have done. I wonder what this thing is really like. You guys are doing it. And I just want to say congratulations. I have so much respect for what you're doing. Please stay in touch. And I look forward to talking with you soon. If there are any other questions, you can either email them to me later, you can call them in to me, whatever is best for you. But anyhow, this has been a great session. I've had a great time and look forward to talking with you soon.
Well, thanks, Aaron, for a great session. And once again, the website is howtomodel.com. And you're going to be getting an email in the next couple days with all the replays and all the links for the bonuses, all the downloads, everything you need for the course, for the workshop, the entire thing. So just watch your inbox for that email, and feel free to leave comments and feedback on the Facebook site about this, and any questions you have for Aaron. I know he's able to answer those as well. Well, Aaron, thank you for a great workshop today. It's been very good. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Sounds great.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.